Hello, welcome to the Facial Recognition Comedy Podcast. This is Zara Ali.
I'm Fizza Dasani.
I'm Pallavi Ganalan.
And today's very special, esteemed guest is none other than Jackie Kashian.
Yay, I'm here. I'm right here.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Here we are in the middle of nowhere. And yet, very populous.
Yeah.
We just went to a beautiful bakery across the street.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was an ice cream shop and bakery and Korean, they wanted to put mint in my coffee. A lot of things were happening.
Yeah, it was very soothing. It was very
Do you come to
soothing
Koreatown
atmosphere.
a lot?
Only, I go to Olympic Spa, which is a Korean spa, which is a nickel, and then a nice lady
Is it
scrubs
fancy?
my body.
Is it
No.
fancy for the nickel?
It is fancier than it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, it was like sort of if a morgue were wet. Because it was super, like, moist, of course, because there's a lot of water. Everybody's noodly, so everybody padding around all nude.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's hot and wet, and now they've put up sort of cubicles, so there's more privacy. Before it was just
Okay.
open with tables, and everyone just laid on a table, they throw buckets of water on you and scrub you down. Those are halcyon days, aren't they?
So they're done?
No, they're
haven't
still
been
there.
back
They've got small walls
Okay.
that they've put up to create the illusion
Like-
that you are not completely nude with some lady looking up your middle parts.
We're being
So
taped.
like hospital curtains.
Almost, except for that they're almost like
Look over them.
yeah, they're sort of like cardboardy kind of walls, but they're not because they would of
Melt.
course melt
In the
and
heat.
mold and yes, they're made
Melt.
out of plastic or something.
How often do you, that's like your self-care?
That's my
like,
self-care. I like
yeah.
to do that like every 6 weeks.
Ooh, that's nice.
That's not bad, right?
That's pretty
Yeah,
good.
that's
Seems-
great.
Yeah.
Pretty straightforward.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that your, once you're off the road, is that part of your...
It
Your
isn't.
regimen?
I wish it was. I try. There, I do a podcast called The Dork Forest, and there's a comic named Kira Sultanovich. Do you guys know Kira? Sultan? Whatever. She has been doing stand-up comedy since the dawn of man, much like myself. And she always goes to she goes to one in the Valley, and she essentially comes from LAX or Burbank or wherever, goes directly to the spa,
What?
and all she does is a soak. She's like, and I do a thing where when I come off the road, the first thing I do is take a bath.
Yeah.
And so just because I have been mingling with humanity. And as much as I love humanity.
Disgusting.
Exactly. Let's rinse off humanity, even in Delta Comfort.
Forever unclean.
Well, does it matter where you go? Or it's just
It
you
doesn't.
get off the road and you have to...
Yeah, it doesn't. If I've driven to Tucson, I come back, I take a bath. So I just like it's a nice little ritual that kind of means, hey, you're home.
Are you normally a shower person?
I don't shower at all. Me and the entire country of Japan like to bathe.
Ooh.
We have that in common.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you have like regular things you do while you're on the road to kind of like keep sane? Like,
Do you ever hear of a book or a movie called The Accidental Tourist?
I've
I've
Maybe-
heard of it.
Okay.
This is on my my Audible queue.
Oh, is
at
it?
the moment. Yeah.
It is either from the 80s or 90s, and what it is it's about some guy who's like a salesman or something like that, and it kind of makes fun of him a little bit, or there's he likes everything to be the same when he goes into a hotel or when he goes into a restaurant, so he likes chains, and I've turned into that guy.
my parents are like that. My parents are
Yeah.
so hardcore like that, and they have all the points, and they like demand everything be the same.
I want to go to a Hampton Inn. It doesn't have
That's
to be
what my
fancy.
parents go to.
You know why? Because it's clean.
predictable.
It is. They have cup of waffle. I don't even want fucking
A
cup of
couple
waffle.
waffle.
Yeah, there's that free breakfast thing that they
Yeah.
do at those things.
Oh,
There's
I
usually
love
like
those free
the
breakfasts.
right. It's a waffle machine, and they usually pour like a dozen cups of waffle
Yeah.
mix, and then you pour it into the machine. You do it, and then it beeps. I don't like waffles, but I want to be offered a cup of waffle because I usually just have a banana or maybe a hard-boiled egg, but it's fine. And the predictability of it.
Yeah.
A Hampton Inn is always clean.
Yeah.
It's always got the same kind of beds, the same
Mhm.
weird art. The art is always the same. I have an ongoing. Yeah.
I always like wanted to know like who picks out the art for hotel rooms. Like I'm so curious about that person. Because they're really like cultivating your experience and whether or not you're going to kill yourself in that room.
So, if anyone knows the curator for the Hampton Inns across the world, reach out to us because we'd love to have you.
I
on
would
the
love
podcast.
to intern with you. I just want to know your mind.
I do an Instagram series, and when I say a series, it's a 40-second show that I do in every hotel that I go into called Hotel Art.
Oh my God,
And
love
I do
that.
just a sort of a, and hello and welcome. I'm in Indianapolis. You're going to want to come and see me at this place. And now let's do another episode of Hotel Art, and then we look at the.
We should switch it out.
I was gonna say, what's the strangest piece of art you've seen?
I have stayed at like boutique hotel rooms. Like in Oklahoma City has this boutique hotel that's in an art gallery.
Yeah.
And I was overwhelmed by how much art. First of all, it was too much art. I couldn't capture it all.
Was it all like modern art?
It's usually modern art.
Okay.
Usually, when you go to a town in a Hampton Inn, what they will do is they'll usually be like, "Oh, you're in Seattle. Here's a photograph or a painting of a Space Needle." It's you go to New York. It's the Eiffel Tower.
Empire
That's
State
not-
Building.
It's not anything. They like to mix you up. No, they put the Empire State, but it's usually whatever the town is, or like I think I was in Salem, Oregon, and it was like a logging picture,
Dying witches.
or it might have been witches. that would
It
be
was
Salem.
the logs that burned the witches.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean it's weird that I like it best when it is themed to whatever the town is that you go to, but I don't.
It's predictable.
Have you been to Madonna Inn? Have you heard of it? Have you guys
Wait.
heard of that? I've
Didn't
never.
somebody just have their wedding there?
It's like a boutique hotel.
Yeah.
I think that's famous. It's every room has a different theme. I think it might be haunted in one of the rooms.
Yeah, if they can get you to stay an extra night, they'll tell you it's haunted. There's a lot of haunted. The Dork Forest, I had Karen Rotowski out talking about haunted.
Oh my God, we had her on here because I don't believe in any of that
She
shit.
did a tarot reading.
Oh my
So
God.
she did a tarot reading on me, and I
How
was
was
like, I was like, okay. Like, it was felt like therapy kind of because she was like talking about my future paths and stuff. But I was
It is very therapeutic.
Yeah.
She's actually very good at it, and I don't. It's funny because I had her and Jen Kirkman on for the first time, and together because I used to do two people at a time.
Okay.
And Jen Kirkman believed it was all about aliens or something and ghosts, and Rotowski was ghosts and something else.
That's
and
what
tarot cards and
our
stuff.
first episode, Fizza said she believed in everything, including astrology, and Zara was like, "That's crazy, but ghosts are real." And I was like, "What?" I was like,
Right.
"That's what?"
Yeah, so Rotowski on the Dork Force, she's like, I know you're scared of ghosts, because that's what
She told me that too.
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm not scared. I just don't think they're real."
Yeah, my thing is she likes to imply that you're scared, that's why you don't believe, and you're like, it's not
It's
that.
a catch-22. I
It's-
just
right.
don't believe in them.
I have this thing where I don't know if they're real or not. I know that I have not had any ghost experiences.
I just don't
Can
see
I ask
any.
a
I don't see
question?
any evidence for it.
I was just gonna say, and it's for both of you guys. How do you think you'd feel if you had a ghost experience? Would that be?
I mean, I would question. Like, I would 100% question it because I want like. Because people put a lot of value in like anecdotal experiences, and that's not necessarily real. Like that's not necessarily like, real evidence. You know, like they put a lot of like what you
need a laboratory.
I need
reproducible.
data, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you want it to be reproducible.
She gets me.
Yeah, but I mean,
She wants a subjective of her.
Yeah, because I
reality,
can't
yeah.
believe my own eyes. Because like we all have like fucked up like perspectives.
But
you know?
even when Karen was on our podcast, she even said if you don't believe in ghosts, and even if you have an experience, your brain is gonna rationalize every which way to make you believe it was something
And
else.
also, we did question,
Yeah.
okay, what are the capabilities we have in science right now to measure that? And she said there are metrics.
Yeah.
And I looked them up, and it said they were all false. Like it said
But
they
here's the
weren't
thing.
real.
What she said is true. Is that if I saw a ghost, my mind might rationalize that
Yeah.
that is just the house settling or whatever it is, right?
Right.
But in the same case, when she sees a ghost, she is rationalizing that she is seeing a damn ghost.
Yeah.
Where it could be the house settling. So I would never say don't believe in
Yeah,
ghosts.
she jumped to that because she did say a lot of ghost hunting is debunking. It's 98% debunking.
Right. And some of her best material is about ghosts. ghosts.
Yeah.
So I always encourage a lot of ghost talk from Karen Artowski.
Yeah.
She's freaking hilarious.
I love ghost jokes. Like
Yeah.
I do. Like I was talking to DJ Sundu about his favorite. No matter what the material is, if it's about ghosts, he loves it. Like he's all about it. I'm like fine with that.
It's
Ghosts
great.
are fun.
Ghosts are, that's good times.
Love
Ghosts.
Casper.
Stood the
Love
test of
Ghost
time.
Hunters.
This ghost premise has stood the test of time.
It-
Think about it. We've
it's
been
recurring.
talking about it for
They're-
centuries.
Ghosts
Yep.
are pretty timeless. Yeah.
Have you had a ghost experience?
Yeah.
I saw
Yeah, she
Coco.
talked about it.
Yeah.
Did you see Coco? Coco
I
was
think
adorable.
it was adorable. It was kind of sad too because they were all dead.
And there was a lot of dead people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
It was
It's
adorable. Pixar did a great job with that.
right, which is better than how they've did you see Up? Like in the
I did not want to see Pixar movies after I saw it.
Yeah,
I was
me
very
neither.
disappointed
I
in
was
them.
done. I
was
literally
sad.
in the first 3 minutes I turned to my niece and I said, "Did that woman just have a miscarriage in this animated series? In this animated movie?" And she goes, "I think she did." And then she never had a kid. And then it was super sad, and it was about the Boy Scout kid whose dad didn't give a shit about him. And it went on like that for an hour and a half, and the only thing that was fun were the dogs.
Yeah.
It was weird. It was not my favorite movie. Some people, it changed their lives. It meant a lot. Did you like it?
I have a hard time remembering it, and I think I did not watch it all the way through, or just up.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, I had a visceral reaction to it. I remember
Sure.
it as this is the first. I did not know Pixar could make sad animated movies.
Right. And Miyazaki
Oh my
Can-
god, love it.
is the best, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and he talks about very real things
Yeah.
that are often very sad. Like,
Miyazaki?
yeah.
Oh my god,
Japanese-
amazing animator. Like he made Spirited Away,
Right.
Howl's Moving Castle, like just the most famous like
I
Japanese
think
animated
Valley,
movies.
uh,
I forget.
not Valley of the Dolls. That's
Eiffel Tower. No.
The Eiffel Tower.
I'm
No.
thinking of Isle of Dogs, but that's.
I heard that was great.
That was great with Wes Anderson. And
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really enjoyed it, and I
The
had
fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
He did that.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For going back to Pixar, I really loved Wall-E. I felt so much compassion for this robot.
Somebody said I just like literally like last week talked to somebody about that, and they said that was used as like ISIS recruiting material because like Americans are just depicted as like these fat lazy people or whatever, and like people use it
Oh, so they
as propaganda.
I thought it
something.
was a gateway drug to Up. Because it was so. I was like, this is pathetic. But in the end, what we learn in Wall-E is what I always thought was that we learned that that people are fine. Look at that one plant. We didn't kill that one. And even robots think that there's hope for humanity. And you're like, I don't know. But there's a great comic book called Descender. Are you guys reading Descender at all?
No, I haven't.
It's a comic book. Not a lot of people are reading it, but it's a story of when the robot. It's one of those robots become sentient,
Mhm.
and then they realize that they're slaves, and then they're like, oh well, let's not be.
Yeah.
And then so they have.
This sounds like Westworld a little bit.
It's like Westworld, except for that it's more. In Westworld, I only saw the movie. I couldn't watch the TV show because much like not Babylon 5, Battlestar Galactica, when the Cylons looked real, that scared the hell out of me.
That's
I was like,
scary.
then everybody's a Cylon, or nobody.
That's in like Doctor
I
Who
can't-
when the statues start moving.
Yes,
You're like, "Ugh."
yes, that's my other. I have a hard time with scary stuff because I get scared, which is why I think Gronkowski thinks I'm afraid of ghosts.
I was thinking.
Oh,
Full
I was
circle.
gonna say, Toy Story 3 was like so. That
Also
was
sad.
so emotional. That was.
I didn't see the third one.
Oh my
It
god,
was-
it was the best one, I think.
I think it was.
They kind of nailed it.
emotional.
They kind of nailed it about old toys, is what it was about.
And friendship.
Yeah.
And friendship and family
Yeah.
Oh,
and
is
kids.
this the one where
And,
he goes off to college?
yeah.
Yeah.
Aw,
Right.
Andy.
Ratatouille.
Ratatouille was. But how about?
Ratatouille.
But here's Incredibles 2 was hilarious and smart and wonderful,
Haven't seen
and hilarious and also wonderful. And then what was the other one that just? That's the new one I think that
Yeah.
I liked. Yeah, I like that a lot. And then I saw Deadpool 2.
Deadpool I was really upset.
Oh, really?
In the first 10 minutes of the movie, they really, okay.
Had you
so
seen Deadpool?
I had seen Deadpool.
Excellent.
So I was walking in like, okay, this is gonna be smart, it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be action, it's gonna be Ryan Reynolds, we're gonna have a great time. And I was just ready to be happy and, watch the action. And then they really fuck with you in the beginning. And I was really upset. I was almost ready to walk out because I was not expecting that for a Marvel movie.
Oh,
They
right.
went really dark.
Oh, they went dark, and I just bought the DVD. And did you stay through the credits?
I did.
All the stingers, right?
Yeah.
So there's all the stingers. It's a time travel thing, right?
Okay, I haven't seen
So he goes back in time and does things, right? And during the credits that are very, very funny.
It was really funny.
There was a deleted scene that they made that I read about that I was like, oh, they never shot that. Well, they did shoot it. Where he goes back to kill baby Hitler.
Yes!
Wow,
And
really?
he is just walking back and forth. Deadpool is walking back and forth
Was
in front of this
was that after
bassinet.
the credits?
Trying to kill it.
I don't think
They
they showed
didn't
that
show
after
it.
the credits.
It's on
yeah.
the DVD.
Whoa.
And it's a
Does he make
DVD
a
extra.
choice?
He's just like, he's just a baby. Oh, I don't know if I can. And
And he adopts it and raises it.
well, he does hold it up. He's like, you smell like Hitler's anus. And then he's like, of course you do, because you are. And he pooped. It was a baby. So, but it was a very
So
cute
funny.
baby, and it was very funny. And but I'm not going to spoil how the thing goes.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
there's a funny last line in it.
Okay.
He does not kill the baby. There is no, but I know
Wouldn't that be
I
a
think
dark
they
ending?
wanted to have him kill the baby, but you're like, no, I don't think we can face it. So
Oh man, I was upset in the first Deadpool, because like, the fuck, Ryan Reynolds has a fucked up face and he still gets the chick.
I mean, but it's Ryan Reynolds.
I know,
so
but
what
his
is your
face is still
imagination?
fucked up.
But
I
it
could
is
do
a-
that with anybody.
but the thing, I think his face is kind of. I mean, his face is good looking. He has weird teeth. I think.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
no, with
He's
after.
got the Canadian thing going on.
I'm talking about in the movie, you guys.
No,
when his face-
Deadpool. The Deadpool is a
Deadpool.
burn victim.
He's a
and-
burn victim.
Yes, I know
Yes.
that.
When his face gets all fucked, he still gets the girl at the end.
Well, that's
If that was the lady, they'd be like,
Because
next.
it's a Disney movie.
That's like a
at the
Bond.
end of the day.
Bond.
Well, but here's the thing about, and because I read Deadpool, and then the first Deadpool, the crazy thing about the Deadpool movie that made me laugh was that it was entirely about how vain he was about his looks.
Mhm.
Because in the comic books, he is much grosser looking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super, like he's drawn, just like chunks are out of his
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how. I mean, you could just, close your eyes and think of anyone. I don't know what she does, but it'd be like. But it literally.
Like Clayface.
Yeah, but it was like she, in the movie, the whole movie, the first Deadpool movie, is him trying to figure out how to get good looking again.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, what an awesome, weird superhero premise.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Ant-Man, where the stakes are so low.
Yeah.
Like he's not saving the world. He was like, I used to be good looking. What just happened?
Yeah.
And in Ant-Man, he just wants to hang out with his daughter more often. I fucking love Ant-Man. Yeah, both Ant-Mans were good. Did you see Ant-Mans?
I haven't seen Ant-Man.
Have you
Ant-Mans are good.
Have you been into comics for a long time and graphic novels?
I wasn't. My husband makes video games for a living.
Yeah.
So he turned me. I read them in junior high, and then I didn't read them, and I read science fiction and other sort of dorky stuff. But I never read comic books. And when we first met, like 2003, he started taking me to the comic book store with him because he has a pull list. And then he would leave them sitting around, and they only take 20 minutes to read one.
I can't go to comic book stores because I'll buy everything.
Right, they're
I buy
really.
everything.
Well, and he used to only read sort of the superhero ones,
Yeah.
but I would weed off into sort of the independent ones.
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, what's this about?
Like Bitch Planet and Chew.
Oh, Bitch
and,
Planet and
like,
Chew are two of the
they're
most amazing.
amazing,
Yeah,
yeah.
Lock and Key.
Yeah.
And but Bitch Planet, I got to meet Kelly DeConnick.
What?
Kelly Sue DeConnick, got to meet her and her husband, Matt Fraction. They're like a power comic book writing couple.
That's awesome.
I'm writing a comic book.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and there's
Let's
a
talk
Kickstarter.
about this comic book.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
It's okay. So Starburns Industries, which is owned by Dan Harmon, the community guy.
Mhm.
He had some idea where comedians would write down stories. They would write stories about something, and then they would hire artists to draw the story. So
So comics would write the comic.
yes, and so it's called Comics in Doing Comics or some
Okay.
darn thing, and it's a
Okay.
Kickstarter. And there's like 10. When is this coming out? Because it's got like 10 days left, and
Yeah,
everyone
next
should
Tuesday. So,
fricking
yeah.
order it.
Yeah.
So that, because I already wrote the script, the artist has already drawn the art, and she's amazing. She's some German artist who was amazing. And, but I've never written a comic book before. So the editor was really a good guy, this guy Brendan Wright. He helped me out. And Patton Oswalt. See, it's just it's Sarah Benacasa. There's 3 comedians and 3 artists, and we each do an 8-page story.
That is awesome.
And so,
It's like a dream come true.
Yeah, so what's the premise of your...
well, I just pulled it from a bit because I didn't know what I was doing, and it didn't pay very well. So I
Dan
was like,
Harmon.
exactly, giant bag of money, Dan
That
Harmon.
community
I
money.
don't understand why we're kickstarting it. I thought it was just for publicity, but I genuinely think we're not going to publish it unless it pays. And right now
So
we're
pay it,
right, so I think we're like
listeners.
20 days in, and we're at half of what we need. And I understand, I don't know a lot about Kickstarter, and sometimes there's this big push at the end and then it funds. So maybe that's how it will go. I don't know. And Dan Harmon is no longer on Twitter.
Oh, God.
Because he did some video where he fucked a doll.
Yeah.
And
So
and
you got kicked off?
a baby doll, yeah. And so I don't know. No, I think he quit.
He quit. I think he resigned.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, well, maybe that wasn't as funny as I thought. And you're like, well, was it or wasn't it? And it's like there was some big article in Vulture about jokes jokes you've done that you regret.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Just all of mine.
don't keep writing them. I mean, it's like everyone in the first couple of years of stand-up, you write whatever, you're just trying to get a reaction from people to some extent.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're talking about anything that will do that. And that often means you're dirtier than usual
Mm-hmm.
or you're meaner than usual. And that's why you guys are screwed to some extent because they film everything now.
Yeah.
You film everything, and then when you finally get something, you get your TV gig or whatever. I saw this happen with Trevor Noah and Melissa Villaseñor, that they had to go back to Twitter and start deleting a whole bunch of shit because
I have a
all
bot
of a
that
sudden-
deletes all of my tweets that are over 30,000. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's an automatic bot that just deletes all my tweets, and I'm like, what did I say? Who cares? And I mean, I don't know. I was probably pithy or funny or whatever, but if it was funny enough, I probably wrote it in my notebook.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't, and if it was mean or weird, like the NRA, I tweeted at the woman who used to be the mouthpiece of the NRA,
Yeah.
and she actually tweeted back at me, and I was like, what? Hi.
This
And
is
I know
just a
I'm
void
verified.
I'm screaming into.
Yes, exactly. That's so it worked, and then like just days later, she resigned, and I was like, maybe I'll tweet at Kellyanne Conway.
Oh yeah.
Maybe that'll make her fucking spit.
Power.
And so anyway, I
I-
recommend the bot.
I never delete tweets unless it's a grammatical error and I have to fix it, but like put it back.
Oh, I
out
do
there.
that almost
I do that. I do that
Yeah.
right away. But then I still have the tweet up from 2013 where I was like, going to this Bill Cosby show. He's my hero. Amazing. Literally, when I lived in Pittsburgh, I saw I think 3 comedians. I think I might have seen Mike Birbiglia too, but the other 3 that I saw were Louis, T.J. Miller, and Bill Cosby.
Good job. Well, I mean, at this point, how many of them are safe? You know, like
None.
we don't
Okay.
we don't really know.
We don't
In a
know.
We
crowd.
don't really know.
Yeah, as long as you're standing you in a door in between
Yeah.
and some sort of beverage. But I saw Bill Cosby twice, like probably 7 years ago and 5 years ago.
I
Like it was
or just
performing.
around?
I
Oh,
hear
and
he
I
is
saw him at the
amazing.
airport one time. It was weird because I had never listened to him as a kid either. Like I didn't know
Oh, yeah.
anything about stand up. Because my dad's a salesman, so we listened to a lot of sales stuff when I was a kid. We never listened to comedy.
Oh yeah, those sales albums.
I'm not even sell the sizzle, not the steak.
What?
It was a lot of motivational speakers and sales stuff. That's all we listened to when we were kids. But so I had never heard Bill Cosby, and then so it must have been like in 2008, maybe 2006.
So had you already started comedy by the time?
I started in '84.
Oh wow.
So,
you were in it for a while.
Yeah, I didn't know who Lenny Bruce was when I started, and they made fun of me so bad. And I was like, who cares? I'm not going to take his material. You told me that's not done. So I don't need to watch him, and I'm constantly watching these 5 guys. So what do I need to see another guy? And I like Lenny Bruce's first album. His second album is just him navel-gazing and just reading his own transcripts of he's celebrating his own notoriety.
So it's like
Anyway.
self-celebratory.
Yeah, it's a brutal. It's him.
It's like for his ego.
Yeah, and I never saw
So
Bill
he's
Hicks.
also masturbated in front of
Exactly. And then I never saw Bill Hicks, even though we did it at the same time, but he was a
Yeah.
Texas guy, so I never ran into him. And I listened to his stuff, and his stuff had been hacked so bad. So I was like, oh, I
You
see
were
what
never
he's doing.
influenced by the folks around you.
No, I was influenced by the people right in front of me.
Yeah.
Right.
Right?
Like your peers.
Yeah,
people that
like
you were-
That's how I feel. Cause
Like two
you,
people, 2 years
Yeah.
ahead of me people.
Yeah. Because you see them like
You see them
you
more
see them
often.
and you see
Yeah.
how quickly they grow and
Yep.
like how they figure things out and how their thought process changes, and that's like the behind the scenes stuff is like even more inspiring.
Yeah.
Cause
And we were talking when we walked over to the coffee shop that there's I remember when I started in college, I was 19 and I started in college and I came home one night and I started at the club. Bill Kinnison owned it, Sam Kinnison's brother,
Yeah.
and Sam Kinnison was a disaster of a human
This
being.
was in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, Madison, Wisconsin. So
Were you partying as much as you should have?
yeah, entirely. And so I essentially
What year was this?
84.
Okay.
And so Kinnison, the first time I did stand up was I saw Sam Kinnison
Yeah.
and I heckled him and they could not shut me up because I was so drunk.
Oh,
And there's no bigger nightmare than a woman heckler, even if you're a woman
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
stand up, because nobody, for some reason, the audience is still on the side of the heckler if it's a woman for some reason. And they couldn't shut me up. And finally, the manager came over and said, "Hey, open mic is on Sunday. Shut the fuck up." And so 3 weeks later, I came back and I did open mic, and I was addicted, and it was owned by Bill Kinnison. And Bill, it was so weird to do stand-up comedy when, like, all of the comics who came in 1984, supposedly this is the boom, right?
Yeah.
They were all Comedy Store comics who had about 20 minutes that were willing to fly to Madison, Wisconsin for $250 for the week, stay in an apartment above like a bar, and do 7 sets, 45-minute sets. They had about 20 minutes, and they all pretended like living in Los Angeles was this incredibly glamorous thing in 1984, which I don't believe them. And we barely believed them at the time.
Yeah.
So, but it was such a weird way to come up, you know, and I remember, I can't remember why I started talking about this.
It's amazing though.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
Right, it's not going anywhere, but it is a good story.
Well, what
So-
did you heckle? Do you remember what the heckle was specifically?
Yeah, he said he was from Peoria, and I literally, and then he let the beat last too
Yeah.
long, and I said, "Sorry," or "That's too bad," something like that.
Yeah.
And it was just my timing was exactly right.
Yeah.
So he was kind of screwed, and then he tried to mop up the floor with me, but he was also coked up and a disaster of
Yeah.
a person because he was Sam Kinison in 1984.
Yeah.
And but I was easily the most naive 19-year-old you've ever met in your life. Like, I didn't get any dick jokes. I had never had a boyfriend. I was a virgin.
Are your parents Armenian?
They are. My
Oh,
dad
wait,
is.
both of them?
No, my mom's Irish.
So was it your dad's influence that was kind of made you this naive 19-year-old?
I think so, because my mom died when I was 7, and my dad remarried immediately because that's what you do if you have 6 children and you're an Armenian man.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, heaven forfend.
Did he
I raised
remarry
them.
an Armenian woman?
No, he remarried another Catholic.
Oh, he
Uh,
has a type.
He has a type, and it's a tiny blonde woman. He loves, except for that my mother was a tiny redhead, but they met when she was 15 and he was 17. And then she got pregnant and they got married. It's a timeless tale of 1955. And then he joined the Marines, and then she was supposed to run the house, but she
Were
was
you
15.
allowed to get married back then at 17 and?
And 15?
Yeah.
Well, I think they got married. I think she was 6. She had my brother when she was 17,
Okay.
This was
and my dad
Wisconsin?
in Wisconsin, and then my dad
can
was.
get married as long as you're not black and white. Back then.
Oh, right. There was no
That's the
interracial.
rule.
Right, there was no
the-
interracial.
Right,
but
and my dad
there
was
was no
pretty
minor.
brown.
Yeah.
there was no like a minor.
Well, she was
age.
pregnant,
So you said
and so her parents were cool.
this was 54, 55, so
Mhm.
you saw desegregation. Were you affected?
Well, I
by
wasn't.
She
I
was-
wasn't
she
born.
wasn't
I was
in
born in
55.
'65.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Because my oldest brother was born in '55, and I was born in '65. I saw. What did I see? Ooh,
Roe v. Wade?
McGovern. Yeah.
You saw interracial dating.
I saw interracial dating. I saw. There was like literally. I'm from a factory town in Wisconsin, and there was almost. It could not have been like my dad used to say how like literally the Armenian kids were the black kids.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's why he got to be racist.
Whoa.
Yeah, guess what? Flawed reasoning. And as my brothers and everybody argued with it. And my dad he's just a button pusher and he's a salesman and he wanted to have us learn how to argue. That's ostensibly what it's very exhausting. And so whenever he would say anything to me, by the time, like I'm the youngest of 6, I would just get up and leave the room.
Yeah.
Whenever he'd say something nightmarish, I would just leave. And then he started doing it in the car. And he's like, can't walk out at 55, can you? And I was like, why? Why even do this? What is this? It isn't doing anything for, and my brother, like my second oldest brother would argue with him incessantly.
Yeah.
Just about labor and about justice and about all these things. And we're all, I mean, my oldest brother is actually a nightmare. He's an evangelist with his own church in Tucson, Arizona.
Wow.
With the
So he making
meanest,
that money.
meanest Jesus. No, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
He likes a mean Jesus.
He likes a mean Jesus. I was like, why'd you write that children's book? The meanest
But
Jesus.
it seems like all your siblings, you all seem to be doing well in your respective fields.
Yes.
You're all overachievers.
Very, very
whatever
successful.
represents.
They've all been very successful, and I have recently become equally successful. So
Congratulations! You
And
made
you didn't
it.
need mean Jesus to do it.
didn't need mean Jesus. So evangelist, my second oldest brother is a print salesman, and hippie skippy crystal clutcher guy, right? The big labor fan growing up. My third oldest brother is a commodities broker, and he was conservative, and then he was liberal, and then he was conservative, then he was liberal again. In other words, my brother Scott's a bit of a button pusher as well, but he fell in love with a black woman, and they married, and they had a lovely, I don't know, dozen years together, and then I think she was like, I gotta go. Because he might have lost his mind again. And then my fourth oldest brother is like the golden child, and he is an econ professor at the University of Wisconsin, Whitewater.
Oh, wow.
And he has 2 children, and his wife is a doctor. And it's very, very glamorous to be him. And
So your reunions, family reunions,
Wait,
must be
we-
a little bougie.
We gotta get to the 5th one.
Oh, sorry.
it's my sister.
Hi.
Yeah.
My sister is a
Your first sister.
yeah, the first
First
girl.
sister.
Yeah, it's so funny because when she was born, my Armenian grandmother said, "Finally, someone to take care of the boys."
Oh,
Ah.
That's what my sister said. You're thinking of someone else. And
And then you were made.
and then well, exactly. And then I was like, then the spare. So, but I am to some extent the only one for years. I was the only one that everyone would talk to, including our stepmother.
You're the baby,
Like, I'm the
right?
baby,
Yeah.
and so they'd be like, well, so our stepmother Nancy, they were like, well, how's Nancy doing? I was like, she has a phone. You can just call.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. How's she doing? She doing all right? And he's like, yeah, she's fine. And how's Terry? And I was like, and I talked to Terry until Captain Knobjob was elected, and now I cannot talk to him.
Is Terry the oldest one?
Terry's the oldest, the
The
evangelist.
evangelist.
Yeah, so he's the evangelist, and I mean, his own children have a hard time talking to him because he's such a piece of work.
Too busy
So
talking
what
to mean Jesus.
What are family reunions like? Because it seems
We don't
like,
have them.
Oh, at all.
No.
So there's
it's-
siblings that don't speak to each other. And
Right. When I got married 12 years ago when I was 40. And here's the thing. You get married when you're 40, everyone comes. Because it's a spectacle.
Oh.
Yeah, and everyone's like, I thought you were dead. Nope.
Did you have a big wedding?
It was really big. We got
How many
married,
people?
200.
Oh wow.
That seems big.
Yeah.
We got married at a Chinese restaurant downtown LA.
Nice.
Dim
What?
sum.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. They served. They literally didn't care that we were getting married, even though they knew we were getting married. And but they kept they served food during the service. They cut the cake without us. They're like, it's fine. It was this giant dim sum restaurant, and it's closed now. But
They were just trying to move the itinerary along.
right. Well, it's a volume industry.
Did you rent out the whole restaurant?
We rented out half of it. The other half had a Chinese wedding, which was funny because she wore a white dress.
Simultaneously.
Yep. She wore a white dress. I wore a red dress.
Ooh.
We both did some cultural appropriation.
Switcheroo.
That's
Mhm.
great.
Yes.
You don't have kids?
No, we don't. We didn't have.
Did you ever want to have kids?
Only when I met him.
Oh.
Yeah, because I never did want children. I always had, whenever I got laid, I always made sure, even though I was super hammered, I was like, I'm the youngest of 6. I am a fertile frickin' myrtle. We are going to be using some barrier method, my friend. And
I make them take the condom with them. I'm like, get this out of here. Burn
this
it.
is yours.
This is yours.
You don't want this
Too many of you.
accidentally.
I don't want any of that in my place.
Exactly. It's
I think
right.
after 7 seconds you're good, but just in case.
Just in case. Are you kidding me? Literally. My sister used to say.
Keep all the jizz away from
uh,
Jackie.
and I have to tell you.
That's Jackie's new podcast. Keep the jizz away from Jackie.
A million listeners immediately. Got the word jizz in it. And yeah, no, I know it's so funny about and I continue to menstruate, by the way. It's very disappointing to me. A lot of my friends, they've wrapped it up.
Still she persists.
Still, my parts persist.
Yeah.
Each of my ovaries is like, maybe, and I'm like,
gonna keep making this happen.
I was like, I can't even sustain life. There's no way I can sustain life with what's coming out of my innards. And so it would be like a Canticle for Leibowitz kind of baby, which is a science fiction novel for Leibowitz. I'll be over here making weird references. But yeah, it was, so, and I did stand-up for a long time, and I never did it. And I was always like, no, stand-up's the most important thing. Stand-up's the most important thing. Stand-up's the most important thing.
But so how did this happen? Because so many of us are dealing with this. It's impossible to date or fall in love.
Right.
And with the generation of fuckboys that are in front of us right
Yes.
now, with online dating and stuff, it seems like it's virtually impossible.
Instead of emotions, I do work.
Yes, exactly.
So how did this happen? How did
Well,
this come about?
it was probably like 16 years ago now, because we've been together 14 years. And
Congratulations.
thank you, probably 16, 17 years ago, I literally was like, I got sick of getting laid, just on the road. Because when you get laid, there's always that awkward moment, and this is a joke I do. So now, be warned. There's something's funny's gonna happen. No, but literally, when you get laid, when you're sleeping with strangers, which is what I was doing on the road, I get laid, there's always an awkward moment when you think to yourself, is this where he kills me?
Oh yeah.
It's super awkward.
And
And
like
it's
the whole time.
the whole time when you're poised for flight, thinking, I'm never going to have an orgasm because I'm super tense. Anyway, but I do need a tune-up, so we're doing this.
Yeah.
And so then, so I did that for like a decade, right, or whatever. And then I was like, I would like a boyfriend. We don't have to hire the caterers. I don't need to have children. I have yet to meet a dude that I'd be willing to have children with. I mean, that was part of it. I was like, I don't want to raise them alone.
Yeah.
And I want them, and I saw how that goes.
Did you kind of want kids then, if you were talking about like?
I like children,
Yeah.
but I have a dozen nieces and nephews.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the gene. It's not gonna. No, my father has met all of his grandchildren. He
Yeah.
has met none of his great grandchildren. He doesn't. It's not that he doesn't love them. He just doesn't care. And
Oh wait, so there
I
are
always-
great.
I always-
yeah, there's 4 great grandchildren he's
Okay.
never met.
I always felt like I would have a kid before I got married, like because I was like I know myself, like I know if push came to shove, I could take care of this baby.
Yes.
I don't want some dude in my bank account. Like I don't trust no bitch.
Right. Well, fair enough. But it's the thing is if you meet the right dude, then you're in a partnership, right? If you meet the
Novel.
confused look on your face,
Very
interesting idea.
strange.
Interesting. So no, like if what you want to do is you want to meet a partner that you both together want to do something together, whether it's have children or not have children.
So it's not an antagonist.
No, no. What you're
Oh.
looking for
Okay.
It's a team.
is a teamwork kind of situation.
Interesting.
So part of the problem was that I literally would hit on guys, and I only fell for if I fell for comics, luckily none of the comics I fell for knew I existed as a woman, right? Because they were all complete and
Wait, are
utter
these the guys
egotistical.
you talk about in your bit? The way that you flirt with guys is
You stand next to them?
next to
Yeah. I think I stood next to Mark Maron for a dozen years. I stood next to Doug Stanhope for 10.
Oh my God.
I mean, there were like Patton Oswalt. There were guys that, I mean, I would meet these guys, Paula Tompkins, and Paula Tompkins is younger than I am.
Did you
But-
ever stand next to Louis C.K.?
I never did.
Or in front of him while he was masturbating?
No, I never did. And he, I am very much old peasant stock. I am the kind of woman that Louis C.K. wouldn't even think about trying to masturbate in front of, because I would fucking shut him down. And it isn't to my credit. It's to his detriment that he can he can see somebody who has a weakness and just kind of slip the knife in, right?
So, can I ask you something? This was something, because you've been doing this for decades
Forever.
now, yeah.
Since the dawn of man.
So even, like me, it's been like 6 years.
Yeah.
I feel like when I came into it, everyone knew about the Louis stuff. It wasn't a secret. It was like an open secret.
Yeah, except for it wasn't. I didn't know about it. I mean, that's the weird thing. And I've known the guy for 15 years, off and on. You know, like not well.
Yeah.
He's a New York guy. I live here. I never ran. I featured for him once in Minneapolis. He was perfectly fine. He didn't do anything in the green room except for order dinner. So, I mean, it was never anything. He never did anything around me. But I found out afterwards that a friend of mine would Skype with him, where he would jerk off and she would watch. But it was completely consensual.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, well, if there are women willing to do that, for the love of God, Jim Norton pays people. Just pay people, or find the woman who wants to watch you do that. But that's not what it's about. It's like all sexual assault. It's about power.
Yeah.
Right.
It isn't anything about the sex. It's about the sex tertiary.
It's about, okay, what else can I get away with?
What can I get away
Yeah.
with? What can I force somebody to watch me do? And if it's something that he also likes to do consensually, which is something rapists, I'm sure, also enjoy, having regular sex, but they also enjoy forcing people to have sex. And so they're two separate things.
I think it's a spectrum.
It's
You don't want to box everybody in.
But that, I mean, did you see that thing at Aretha's funeral?
Oh,
With
the groping
priest?
of Ariana Grande.
With the Pope? Cupping
Not the
Ariana?
Pope.
It wasn't the Pope, it was
priest.
just some
The priest.
pastor, yeah.
I don't know.
We're confused with
These
white
religions.
religion. We don't know anything. I know a lot of brown guys.
They all just like kids.
Well-
And small boobs.
Well, what the
And
weird thing is,
Whoa.
I mean,
I'm
have you,
sure her boobs are
but
great.
you've had like, have you had like the dude where
Yeah.
he reaches around too far?
Yeah.
And you're like, buddy, that is not anywhere. First of all, why do you have your arm around
Do
me
you
at
think
all?
I'm not here? Do you think I can't feel this?
Right.
It's like he's petite, but he should still know better. Like there should be
Right.
some sort of.
Have some depth
Or
perception.
just don't touch
Yeah.
her.
Exactly.
Yeah, don't
Maybe
touch her at all.
Don't touch her.
I know that.
What's
I
wrong
mean,
with handshakes?
yeah.
What happened to those?
Or knowing what's happening.
Yeah.
It's
Dude,
like just like and then my least favorite. I haven't been able to figure out a way to explain it so dudes in the audience get it. But it's this weird elbow squeezing thing where
Oh,
the
I
guy
fucking hate
grabs
that.
your elbow and your
Why?
hand and
Yeah.
squeezes your elbow.
Why?
I
What
It's
is
so
that?
gross.
It's so gross.
It's the petting and squeezing that doesn't make any sense.
The cheek kiss
Or-
that leaves the saliva on
It's
it.
so gross.
Oh my-
Or
I've
the
had
or
so
the
many wet
face
kisses.
talking, like they're so close to your face, or the hand on the back. Like I'm
Ugh.
just like, ooh.
Oh, Maria had some club owner got Maria Bamford, so I
Yeah.
open for her sometimes on the road. Her and Brian Regan, but the club owner grabs the low part of her
fucking hate
back
that.
and took her up to the stage, guiding her. The stage is right there; she can see where it is. It turns out her eyes are attached to her feet, and she was like, she's like, I don't even want a woman to do that. She
Yeah.
had some woman on set do that. She was like, you gotta not touch me. But for some reason, it's hard to ask a dude to not touch you.
They get
Because
so mad.
They get
They're
mad.
just like,
offended.
ooh, and
or
it's
you
like,
get afraid that they're gonna get mad.
yeah.
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 I've
It's a
actually,
drag.
I've addressed this so many times now where I'm only fist bumping comedians. I don't
Right.
trust any
But
of
that's
you
only
guys.
because you're really cool. That has nothing to do with it.
No,
You
that's
are
not-
pretty.
kidding.
You're pretty.
You're pretty cool.
Thank you.
That's why.
Thank you so much.
Right,
No,
and
but
the
it's
fist
all-
bumping
yeah.
also, there's less germs.
Yeah.
That's why I do it.
Right, you can just if you'd like to think I'm a germaphobe, why don't you do that?
Yeah.
Howie
Instead of-
Mandel, germaphobe, and also gentleman.
And also someone who has there's so many decent dudes too.
Yeah.
Like
But
there's
they're quiet.
right, it's nice.
Yeah.
But if you want to hang out with like Will Miles or Baron Vaughn or a dozen like Dan Telfer, a dozen just perfectly nice 35-year-old Matt Broner, Kyle Kinane,
Yeah.
Sean Patton. There's 1,000 decent,
There's a lot of nice guys.
who are
Yeah.
doing stand-up comedy and are not creeps and are hilarious.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to hang out with dudes that are gross. So
I think it's like we just I think there are dudes that are gross that are just like there's so many gross dudes that they're just like everywhere, and it's also like sometimes you don't know they're gross until they do something gross.
Yeah,
Well,
it seems like
yeah,
they
yeah.
outnumber the nice guys.
They're just doing a lot. They're just
louder.
being
They're
just
extra.
louder.
They're louder,
louder.
and obnoxious.
and the
Yeah.
weird thing is that I mean, for decades I have been doing this. I've been cutting them slack by going, well, he's really funny, but he's just gross, or he's funny, but he's just mean.
Like
Why do
everybody
comedians-
was doing
Why
that.
do male comedians get that pass? Because
They get that pass.
in
Women
other
don't.
industries, if a guy can be great at his job, but if he sexually assaults or sexually harasses somebody at work, like in a corporate environment, he can get fired.
But often do not.
But often
We don't have
yeah.
that PR.
Yeah.
Right, we don't have the HR.
HR.
Yeah.
We also have
Day job
really
right
shitty PR.
We have bad. There's a lot of ours that aren't good right now.
Yeah,
Like rapists.
Yeah, but I mean,
there's
they
still an
have to
issue.
leave that company. They have to leave the company. They may get hired elsewhere, and they have to probably switch industries or
But if
whatever.
you
Sometimes the
look
women
at the
leave,
Catholic Church as an example of a corporation that doesn't care, they do a
Right.
lateral move
Yeah.
with the priests, and they do the same nightmare as some other place.
They, however, do have good PR.
They have amazing
Twitter,
PR.
They're really great. Have you
And
seen
they're
God
great.
on Twitter? He's amazing.
I have a theory.
God is actually
The
God's
tweet
really
of God
funny.
is really funny.
God's really funny.
He's a comic.
Yeah.
And
Do you know who he is?
yeah,
Who
yeah,
writes-
his
who
name's
writes for
Dave.
God? Dave. Okay.
David.
God would be a Dave.
Lavin?
Of course.
He's Jewish. That's what we know that because
Oh.
he's Yahweh.
Yeah.
And because he told me he wanted to start a podcast, and I was like, "What am I, the go-to if you want to start a podcast?" And
You
I just
are.
got that from Pete Lee today. Do you know Pete? I don't know. He's a Minneapolis comic. He works.
He asked you to be a.
Well, he was like, "Hey, I'm thinking of starting a pod. Do you know what kind of equipment?" And I said, "Yeah, I have a Tumblr blog where I just copied the link and sent it to him.
that's so funny.
And all it is links to cords, essentially mics.
Yeah.
Mic stand.
Yeah, get yourself a Zoom, get yourself some XLR cables and some mics, and
I have like a standard email for like how to get like people into tutoring and teaching.
Oh, there
I
you
did
go.
that a lot. So I have so many people coming to me because
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
that like the year after I graduated and then like in between my master's and working. And so now I'm like that. I'm just like, you know what, I'll send you the email with
That's-
all the links.
it's perfect.
Go-to tutoring guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm the go-to if anyone from LA is trying to do comedy in New York.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I go to a Whiplash guy, Jeremy.
I know Jeremy.
Yeah, do you know
Okay.
Jeremy? He runs. I was like, what are the current? Oh, and Mandy, whatever. There's a couple of people that I'm like, what's the current list? Because the list changes.
It changes a lot.
In every city.
In LA,
Yeah.
it doesn't change as rapidly as it changes in New York. But even still, like if you come back to LA a year and a half, 2 years later,
It's a
all-
bunch of new shows,
yeah, all
and
the
a
shows are
bunch of
different.
things have changed, and
Yeah.
and there's new cool kid shows that you want to get on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
What's the turnover? Like, you think it? Do you feel pretty far removed from the scene if you've been gone for like a month, 2 months, 6 months?
Like New York.
New York and or LA.
Yeah, I would say if I'm not back, I think 6 months I could probably use the same list.
Yeah.
But every year I make a new list.
Yeah.
If it's a year, I'm like, oh, there's shows that are done.
Yeah.
And there's new shows that I don't know about that I totally want to know about.
Yeah.
Like there's a barber shop.
Yeah.
There's some weird pizzeria in the middle of
Blind
nowhere.
Barber.
The Blind Barber.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
that's-
good one.
And it's steady. There's at
Yeah.
least 2 or 3 shows there a week.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice.
That one's a good one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Stand-up's great.
I feel like New York is great for that. Maybe we're talking too much about comedy, but for those of you who get a chance to do or visit New York, I feel like they've turned every bunker in New York into a place of comedy. I did so many basements and bunkers and
the weird thing is
we have to practice for when the world's gonna end.
Clearly,
right.
Well, when life's gonna be.
When Lori Kilmartin goes, she just does the Stand at like New York Comedy Club and New York, the other one with New York in the name, and they all pay.
Oh, the Stand New York.
Stand Up New York.
Stand Up New York.
Uptown.
Uptown. She usually does New York Comedy Club and the Stand.
Okay.
And the Stand is actually being renovated, I think, now or something. But she can end up doing like 7 shows a night because they're so close to each other. And so when I go, I do all the weird alti rooms where I'm like, well, I got to take a lift from Queens to Brooklyn to Manhattan.
Yeah.
So
So I
Manhattan
can do
to Harlem.
secret password.
I can do 3 sets a night if I spend $60.
Right.
And she gets paid $75 a set, and she's within walking distance or cab distance.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I dream about, going to New York and getting to do. Except for I do like the alti rooms a little bit better,
Yeah.
just because I like the Stand. I mean, the Stand was really great, and it would be great to do all 3 shows that night and then just make $300.
Yeah.
That'd be lovely. But
sometimes it's exciting to find like new places to do it.
you know, QED.
It's in Queens.
In
Yeah.
Queens, that's a delight.
Finnegan's room, right?
His wife.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And then
It's a great room. I end up there every time I go back, and I always learn something new from there.
And Queens is
Yeah.
nice, by the way. When did Queens get that nice?
Since I was born there.
right.
Yeah,
Can
same.
you
Same
know a
reason.
good place to get an Italian ice?
In Jersey.
Because I remember I was in Queens. I think it was in '89.
Yeah.
I tried to move to New York in 1989, and when I say move to New York, I mean New Jersey. I lived in Weehawken, right above the tunnel.
Yeah.
Right
I lived
down
in
the,
Hoboken.
Did you?
Yeah.
I lived down the block from essentially probably a half a mile from the statue of Alexander Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
And I took the path in. I only lived there for 2 months.
So did you have like a job?
I had a job at an insurance company called Chubb Life.
No.
I had to take the
Did they
path to
insure
the World Trade
dicks?
Center.
Like what?
I know, Chubbies. But they did not. It was the dumbest job in the whole wide world that I ever had in my whole life. And I was a week into it. My boss was this woman who was literally drunk.
Yeah.
She was genuinely drunk. And
That is New York.
And I was-
Everybody is drunk and or hungover at
at work.
Yes.
It was so weird. We were in a
Yes.
meeting on the first Friday, and she had a giant hole. It was back when women wore pantyhose.
Yeah.
That's how long ago this was. And so she had a giant hole in her thigh. I was like, what is happening with this lady and how hammered she? And she reeked of liquor. And so
That sounds like feminism to me. You
it
know
was
what I mean?
well, she was completely allowed to continue to work there, and
Progress.
2 weeks, and I killed my dead mother. I said, hey, my mom has cancer.
Oh my
I gotta go
God.
back to Wisconsin. And my boss, who was this guy, did not believe me. He said, here's an idea. Why don't you go back to Wisconsin for 2 weeks? We'll pay you. And then you can come back. And I was like, yeah, none of that's happening.
Wait,
I
they
got
were giving you a paid vacation?
after working there 2 weeks.
Wow.
Right. I
So
was.
they needed you badly.
They needed me badly. Clearly, there was some sort of midwestern lady secretary drought.
So you were the glue that held it together.
Yeah, and I was like, I remember I had a picture of my grandma, my sister-in-law, my nephew, sitting underneath my grandmother's grapevine in her backyard in Wisconsin. And I was looking at it one day, and one of the other women in the secretarial pool, like it was 1957, leaned over and she looked at me and she goes, "Where's that?" And I said, it's home. It's in Wisconsin. She said, "What the hell are you doing here?" And I was like, "You are correct." And I couldn't get any stage time. So it was
Why couldn't you get stage time?
because in 1989 there were no barking. There was no barking,
okay.
and there were only bringers.
and it was
And I didn't
just
know
the clubs.
anybody. And it was just the clubs,
Okay.
and I didn't know anybody. So what I did was I moved back to Wisconsin, stayed with my sister for the winter.
The bringers started back then?
Yeah.
Right.
They were in full swing in 1989 in New
Yep.
York.
I had to bring 5 people. I was like, I only know 2 people.
How did comics in general feel about the bringer shows? Because right now, most comics just loathe them.
They've
always loathed
them.
I got messaged the other day by a comic asking me that he needs to bring 10 people to a show, and I was like, hey, no thanks, and also maybe don't do this.
Yeah, don't
Just
do
fair
this.
warning for you.
I did some bringer show that I didn't know was a bringer show at
Here in LA?
Here in LA, on Sunset, there's something called the Pink Taco.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They do comedy there now?
I didn't get the term Pink Taco.
But
Oh, yeah.
so
I might not be
cute.
super young. I was like, who the fuck is calling it?
We
I
only understand Choco Tacos. So.
They pink on the inside. Anyway, so but the weird thing about the the Pink Taco guy was this bringer dude, a Polish immigrant dude who ran.
Oh my god.
You know that guy?
No, I don't.
Oh, anyway,
so funny.
so he was like, so it's this show. It's usually a bringer show, but it's not going to be for you. And so then I like a week before the show, I posted, hey, I'm doing a show at the Pink Taco, and everyone was like, eh. And I was like, oh, this is bullshit. And so I emailed the guy and I said, I did not know what that term meant, and so to do that show, I'm going to need $100. And he goes, not a problem. And I was like, I meant to say $200. And so I get there, he gives me $100, and he was clearly making like $700. Like the room had to have 200 people, and everybody had to bring 10 people, and it was $10 a person.
Was this recently?
This was probably 2 years ago.
Okay.
I don't think this guy is doing bringer shows.
Yeah, I've done bringer shows at where I haven't had to bring. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this about my career. I get to do bringer shows and not bring, and I can get onto almost any open mic. I can strong arm myself into a free 3-minute set. Right, but I've done them at the Comedy Store, and I've done them at the taco place, and then I think that's it.
I did 2, and I did bring people, but they were like my friends who wanted to see me do comedy, so
Which
it
you
wasn't
can
like
only
as
do
stressful.
you can go to that well like once.
No, I have a bunch of people because I'm a nerd, and they like are excited. It's all like my friends from undergrad. See, all you need to do is go to undergrad, go to grad school, get a job, go to grad school again, and then you'll have all the people you need for bringer shows.
You just need to have a separate life.
A separate life,
yeah. Okay.
Wait, I want to ask you, like, what got you in from listening to sales albums into comedy?
The heckling.
Just the heckling?
Yeah. I always wanted to
like,
act.
I'm gonna do
I wanted to be an actor, but I went to college, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but my sister said that I was going to college, so I went to college. And then I ended up with a degree in political science because in my 3rd year, they said I had to pick a major. And I said, what's it look like? And he said, well, you have 1 more credit toward graduation in poli-sci than you do in history. And I said, okay, because initially I thought about majoring in classics. I wanted to get a classical degree, and because I had taken Latin, and I took Latin when I got to college, but
classical degree. Can you explain that?
What's a classical offered?
It would be Roman and Greek history and ancient Greek language and Latin, and essentially the politics and I didn't want to be an archaeologist. I just wanted to.
Be well-rounded.
Kind of a classics. I wanted to, bless her. I think I wanted to. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to study ancient Greece and
That's
Rome.
so
The modern
interesting.
equivalent of like liberal arts.
I don't know. I don't think it's liberal arts.
It's definitely a liberal arts degree, and there was philosophy and stuff. But it turns out I'm terrible at languages, so I didn't want. I passed 5th semester Latin, but only by the grace of God and Professor Lamorne.
So you're the Armenian that's in you. You never picked up You never picked up on the language.
No, well, it was my grandmother was always devastated that we didn't speak Armenian. My father was always like, she did, but they fled the Turks in 1915,
Right.
and so she came via Syria on foot. And
that's a hardened woman.
Yes.
Did you walk across the Atlantic? How did that happen?
Well, then she went to Greece, and she had her sister. They both ended up in Greece, and then her youngest brother, ended up back in Soviet Armenia at the end of the war, and he was a baby. He was very little. And I remember, because I tell this story on the new album, because when the election happened, I had a small meltdown, like much of the sentient world.
Like all of us, yeah.
Yes, and so I told this story about how I asked my grandmother 3 times about the genocide. She had 2 stories about the genocide. They were both funny. I don't know if you know this about people who survive genocides. They're hilarious.
Yeah.
They genuinely, right?
They are.
Yeah.
Something about trauma that just makes people funny.
Right, and she didn't want to talk about the sad things. She wanted to tell whatever funny stories there were. So she told me, when I was 19, she told me that when the Turks came to empty their village, there was still bread in the oven. And to that day, she was still worried about that bread. And I was like, I bet you'd burn. And she was like, yes. And the Turkish general who was in charge of clearing everybody out said that her family could keep their family donkey. And my grandmother's grandmother was supposed to ride that donkey. And the village priest stole that donkey. The Armenian priest of their village.
Goddamn priest.
Yeah, my grandmother, 15 at the time, took a 2x4 and beat the priest off of the donkey. Yes.
Was he just desperate? Was it a survival moment?
He thought he should ride, and her grandmother should not. And my grandmother, who was 15 at the time, was like, "It's not your donkey. It's our donkey. She's riding it. She's old."
She beat him
And
off.
so
Wow,
she
your
beat him off.
grandmother is badass.
She was badass, and she told me that story when I told her I didn't want to go to church anymore. And she said, "I go to church. I beat a priest up. You're going to church."
That's so funny.
It was hilarious. And then the second story was not funny, and it was essentially because I was like 13, I was doing genealogy, right? And I was like, hey, what happened? So I was writing down all of her siblings and all these things, and I said, whatever happened to these people? And she was like, I don't want to talk about it. And I was like, but what happened? She was like, they're dead. And then I made her cry, and I was super sad, right? And, but I was 13, so I was an idiot. And so I remember asking her, I was like, what was the genocide like? What was it like, Grandma? And she said, well, for every 200 Armenians that were being marched into the desert, there was 1 Turkish soldier. And he had a gun. And then she just stared at me, and I was like, why didn't you guys just kill him? You were 200 of you. I mean, you could have just tackled him and killed him. And she looked at me, and she goes, nobody wanted to be the first to die, so we all died.
Oh my god.
And she told me that story because I'm pretty sure she was like, nobody gets on the trains again, Jackie. Tackle the guy. She was like, to this, because she said we all died. She didn't die.
Yeah.
In her heart, she feels like she died with all those people. You know, she was like, I can't believe we didn't just tackle that guy. And then the last story, which is funny again, which is a rule of 3. She said, I asked her what she was doing, and she said as they were marched past these villages in Syria, the villagers had come out to watch the death march. They didn't have television. So they come out to watch, and they would ask the women in line, the guys from the village would ask the women in line their names. And if you told them your name, they would go to the soldier in charge and buy you. And so my grandmother said that whenever guys would ask for her name, she would throw rocks at them. And she told me that story when I told her that I had a crush on a guy who didn't like me. She said, we're not good with that.
Oh my god. Oh my
No,
god.
we threw rocks at black boys. Got it.
Exactly. We're not
so
great.
funny.
And it was she had an arranged marriage. She liked she was arranged to marry this dude on the boat to America.
Yeah.
And then that guy died.
Arranged by who?
I think by the dudes that were in charge of her travel. Like there's always some swinging dick who's in charge of all these women as they try to come to America and live their lives. And then
Did he die on the boat?
he died, I think, on the boat. And she was like, and I asked her, because I never really knew my grandfather, and I was like, what's Grandpa like? She said, I don't like to talk about people I love. I can talk about my first husband. Would you like to hear about him? He was horrible.
So they had actually gotten married on the boat?
Yeah, I think they got married either before they got on the boat or on the boat. And then she was unmarried, and she was never going to marry again. And then she had some weird arranged marriage with my grandfather, and she was almost 40 when they married. And,
Hey, it runs in the family.
It runs in the family.
Yeah.
And then she had my father. She had a bunch of miscarriages, and then she had my father. Only had 1 child. Very disappointing to the fact that my father was then king. So he is very certain of his own worth. Of his
I'm
own
sure.
self-worth, yes.
The only
Beloved
son.
boy.
But then he
After
went
his
on.
marriages.
He went on to have 6 kids.
Which she was psyched about that. She never liked my mother. She was like, she blamed my mother for everything, and I was like, didn't do it alone.
I mean, I'd have grandkids first. I don't know. If
Yeah.
I'd have
Fitz, I have
best.
some bad news.
kids.
It's over.
I'm not ready to face it.
Maybe science will help you. Cool.
All right. Should we move on to our closing?
Yeah.
Closing statements?
Yeah.
Closing statement. Closing questions.
So
Okay.
we're South Asian.
What?
I know.
I did a paper on Gandhi, spelt his name wrong 3 times.
I hate that.
Did you do the
It's
common
GH.
No, I put the H. I think I spelled it with an H at the beginning and an H at the end, and I fucking just kept doing it. And my professor was
covering all your
Indian.
bases. There's an H
and-
somewhere.
My friend Elizabeth Decker was like, I would have failed you. And he was incredibly supportive. He was like, it happens all the time. Just fix it. So, yes. So you
Supportive
guys are
sounds
South
like
Asian?
tired. Yeah. And we always ask our guest at the end of the podcast, who's your favorite South Asian celebrity or?
Is it Harry Connivan?
Aww.
Is it Sumak Tolwalkar?
Oh, Sumuk.
Yeah,
He's a good guy.
he's a good guy. Those are the two, and he's not famous, but Harry's kind of famous.
Yeah,
Has
he's got
Sumuk been around for a while?
He opened for me in Columbus, Ohio,
Oh, cool.
probably 4 or 5 years ago. So
Yeah, really funny guy. I did his
Yeah.
bookstore show.
yeah, he's got that weird bookstore
Yeah.
show that I love. Yeah.
I've never met Sumak,
He's
but I've
a
heard
good
good
guy.
things.
He's come to Facial Rec before.
Oh, has he?
Oh, nice.
He's a good egg.
So I had met him before. Man, I need to remember.
He's met
people.
you.
It's all right. Facial recognition is hard.
And then our other question is, do you have any questions about our culture that you might think would be stupid to ask, but it's a safe space, so it's okay?
Have you ever ridden an elephant? I'm
Yes.
an asshole. I'm an asshole.
Yes,
have you
I
really?
have.
I am.
Yes, I have.
Have you?
In
Have you?
India.
In India?
No, only camels and horses.
Camels and horses.
I've ridden camels and elephants.
Elephant.
And
You guys
horses.
ride an elephant?
I was like 4 when I was in a wedding in India. And they just put all the kids on this like
Giant elephant.
like a cardboard box thing tied to an elephant. It did
Very
not
precarious.
Feel secure. Yeah, it was
Indian lives are not that valued when there's 1.3 billion of you.
Right.
Let nature take its course.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll make another one.
But it's usually during a wedding.
No,
right?
no, I've never had. I've attended.
I think my mom was probably pregnant when that happened. So I was like, well, you know, whatever happened.
We got another one cooking.
There's
I got
another one
malaria.
coming.
I got malaria.
From
Oh,
the
did you?
elephant?
I don't know. I don't know.
Is
We
it-
get it from mosquitoes. The
Is-
elephant bit me.
Malaria is recurring, isn't it?
Nah.
Okay.
I mean,
She
I'm
just
fine.
walked it off. I rode an elephant in Delhi when I think it was in Delhi when we went there and we were just like traveling around and like I would not.
You could
recommend
rent
it.
it. You could rent it.
Yeah, but they don't treat them well, so I wouldn't do it.
Well, same
again.
with the horses at the equestrian center.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some
Oh,
sad sack horses.
They tried. I went to an Indian wedding in Lubbock, and they had horses do the Bharat with like the parade at the beginning.
Yeah.
And those horses were not trained for Indian weddings and freaked the fuck out, and the groom fell off the horse.
Oh my
and
Oh.
there was a kid in the carriage for the bride, and I was like, get that kid off there. But they're not used to the drums, and I'm like, Indians are loud. Like, how did you not prepare for this?
Right. You gotta
Like,
get
that's the one thing.
horses that know about drums.
Yeah,
So all of them got spooked.
yeah. So they got spooked.
Was the groom okay?
He was a little sore, but you know.
He's just shaking.
He was. That didn't stop him from getting married. But the only time I've seen an elephant at a wedding was in Pasadena.
Okay.
I went to Caltech for undergrad, and the Athenaeum is like the faculty member, like fancy hotel. Stephen Hawking like always stayed there when he came to campus, and that's where they have weddings on weekends. And so I definitely snuck into one when I was there. But another one, it was like a half Indian wedding, and they had an elephant. Like we all ran outside because the dorms are right there, and there was just an elephant walking down the path between the dorms, and there was like no one around. And I was like, "What are you like? Why is this elephant just roaming campus?
Can we recreate
What's happening?"
this? I love
I'm
elephants.
hoping to
Yeah.
run. I'm going to Southeast Asia
Yeah.
in like 5 weeks.
Oh,
and,
where?
Malaysia or
I'm going to Vietnam and Cambodia.
Oh,
Okay.
Yes.
that's where you can find the animal sanctuaries.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, and I'm hoping. I don't need to swim with dolphins. Dolphins are busy. I don't need to interrupt an elephant, but I would like to see an elephant.
Yeah.
They're magic.
Like,
They're magic.
right, I mean, if an elephant, they have lives to live. I don't need to, but I wouldn't mind. Like, I was just at Yellowstone, and I
Yeah.
saw a bunch of bison, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
I don't need to pet a bison.
You don't need
I
to
don't-
interact.
I don't need to interact with a damn animal. It was
You
like,
want to observe.
I would like to observe. I swam with whale sharks one time.
What? I want to swim
Um,
with sharks so bad.
I don't. I
Oh.
didn't. The only reason I did it was because it was a bunch of comics, and they were like, "No, we need one more person to get the deal."
Wait, where
Was
do
it a
comics?
Groupon?
Where do comics get together and?
I did 9 weeks in Australia.
Okay.
I did a 9-week road tour in
Got it.
Australia, and it was Stuart Lee and David O'Doherty. It was this weird road tour for the Melbourne Comedy Festival,
Got
and
it.
it was worked into it that we would do. They worked in tourist stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's awesome.
It was amazing. We went to the Great Barrier Reef, and I went on a catamaran onto the Great Barrier Reef. That was literally one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in my life.
Wow.
But when we were on the west coast by Perth, north of Perth, there was this weird old military base that we stayed at, and they were like, "We can swim with whale sharks. They'll take video." And I'm like, "Who? Whale sharks want to hang out with other fucking whale sharks? Leave them alone." Nope, we're gonna go swim with whale sharks.
So these are sharks that are like
They're
little
benign sharks. Yeah, they're not mean.
They're not malignant.
Yeah, they're not
Fine.
bitey.
Yeah.
They're
They look like sharks. Got it.
That's cool. Yeah. So I guess that was the question.
Yeah.
So
Great
2 of
question.
us have ridden elephants. 2 of us have ridden camels.
I've never
Pretty
ridden
good.
a camel. I've never ridden an elephant.
I rode a camel in Dubai. Like they take you out into the desert and do this whole like trip thing that you can organize and like it's fun.
Camels have beautiful eyelashes.
We're
They do.
so
Really?
jealous.
They're very pretty.
So pretty.
Yeah,
That's neat.
That's why they're mean. They're like hot chicks of animals.
They're like Zara.
They're all curvy. They got those lady lumps and they got beautiful ass eyelashes. They think they're better than
Stop
me.
talking about me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
This has been fun, Jackie. Where can people find this this fun Kickstarter?
Oh yeah. It's it's just if you look under let's see. If you go to JackieCation.com, all of the things are there. JackieCation.com is also attainable via FamilyPetAncestry.com. I bought that.
Wait, what?
I bought that as a joke because it made me laugh. What? Because people might want to know if their cat came over the Mayflower.
They do that. No, they have that.
So does it forward to JackieCashian.com?
Yes,
That's
automatically.
amazing.
Yeah, so it's
How many
comics.
white women now come to your show?
So
That
many.
is brilliant.
It is. I'm waiting
Brilliant
for
marketing.
23andMe, the cat and dog.
I think they've done that though. They have like animal swaps now.
They do now,
They
but
do.
that joke is probably 5 years old. But I've kept it up because it made me laugh.
It's amazing.
And so this is called Comics. It's Comics, and it's on Kickstarter.
Okay.
So if you go to Kickstarter.com, it's project number what? Come on. It's if you look up Starburns Comics on Kickstarter, we need another 15 grand. So if you've got 15
We got
grand,
how many
just-
days?
yeah,
20 days?
10
All right,
days, 10
people.
days.
10
We
days.
got it.
And it'll be less when this goes up. But other than that, I have 2 podcasts. I have the Dork Forest, which you're all welcome to come on and be dorks
Yay.
on and dork out about stuff. Tomorrow's episode is with a comic, actually, because I know mostly comedians.
Yeah.
Her name is Casey Conley, and she loves cleaning products.
Oh.
Right, she told me about this amazing, it's called Bona, and it's like a Swiffer thing, but it has a spray bottle attached to it,
Yeah.
and I bought it, it was $30, and she's like, you don't have to use all of their juice, you can cut it, and you're like, in the refill, you could just put in like a third and then add water, because
Yeah.
it's super dense, and
I always add water, just make it last.
yeah, make it last. And I spent 6 hours cleaning my living room, and it was really, so it's a very fun, Dork Forest.
That's
I
a
did a great episode about bees.
that's a really great way to find the best of everything.
Yeah,
Like your
it's
your
whatever
podcast.
people love.
Yeah.
It's like I
and
did,
they know the most about.
Nato Green is a comic out of San Francisco, and he's also a union organizer.
Yeah.
So Labor Day week, he came and talked to me about activism and how being a button,
So
being a
what would
button
we-
pusher.
What would we dork out about?
Yeah, what do you guys like? Do you guys?
I have to think about
We're all
this.
not the same person.
No,
so
you're all
it's
different people. You might like. I had Like Emma Arnold talked about bees. She's a
Yeah.
beekeeper.
Oh, nice. Yeah, she was
And-
telling me that. I was just hanging out with her at 208 Comedy
Yeah.
Fest. It was super fun, and she was telling me that she doesn't use soap anymore. She just because I was like, "You look amazing. What do you do?" And she was like, I bathe in honey. She like bathes. She just uses honey all over her body.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
That's like that. She was like, yeah, and I was like, what? Like, and I was like, how long have you been doing this? And she was like, oh, years. And then later she revealed that she like is a beekeeper.
She's a
like,
beekeeper.
we just had tubs of honey
Yeah,
around the
look at
house, and I was like,
that.
what? Like,
She has
when did you
a
start
lot
doing
of honey, and her dad is a beekeeper and used to make fun of her for wearing the bee suit. And she's like, yeah, I don't want to get stung by bees.
Yeah.
And he went and picked up like they come in these hives of 20,000, so if you want to replenish your bees. So he's got this Subaru. They have 40,000 bees in the back of the Subaru. Her parents are sitting in the front seats. She's in the middle seat. And it's my favorite story of hers, is she's talking about how she's like, hey, can we crack a window back here? There's a lot of bees. And her dad's like, we're going to lose bees. And she said, I'm willing to lose 15 bees to have less bees back here, Dad. So
That's so funny.
So he didn't wear a suit like some people.
he doesn't wear a suit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they
And
just sort of trust the.
He gets stung, is what frickin' happens.
And
Dude
he's
gets-
okay with that.
And he's okay with that.
I don't understand.
She's like,
that.
don't be a pussy, get stung by these bees.
Right, and he doesn't wear gloves because to find the queen, they feel different. So he puts his
He's
hand
just
through
groping
all.
bees.
He's groping bees. He is essentially
Part of the problem.
Part of the yes, exactly. Who's that guy? Who's the elbow squeezer of bees?
But doesn't being stung hurt like hell?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you just,
And I think they die when they sting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
but,
so he's
but,
out
but
there
if-
losing bees.
He's losing bees, but I guess if you move super slow, you can get in and not fuck with the bees, and then you'd find the bee, and then you put the bee in the where you want the queen to be,
go.
and all the drones just follow it.
Yeah.
So
So he just doesn't mind the
Sounds like
hassle.
instant-
Or
He
he
doesn't.
doesn't want the hassle of putting on the suit. He'd rather just get.
yeah, and so whenever
He's
she
just
puts
into
the,
fashion.
and so whenever he puts
That's
she
what
puts the
he's
suit
about.
on, he's like, I can't believe you, and she's like, yeah, all right.
I thought my parents were disappointed with crazy things.
I've
He's
never
like-
gotten stung by a bee.
Really? It doesn't
Yeah,
feel
me
good.
neither.
I
I've
have.
gotten stung by wasps. It's irritating.
Is it similar?
It's got to be similar.
I
I've
heard
seen
wasps
stinging and
were
stinging.
worse.
And wasps are bad.
Yeah.
And the thing is it's not that bad, but it's terrifying.
I actually
Yeah.
had a bee or a wasp land on me before I got into someone's car, and when I got in, it flew off me and stung me. He's a sociopath, so you know.
Oh, good for you.
I
Worked
did at
out.
the time, yeah.
Oh, good.
karma.
Yeah.
All right, you guys.
Who knows?
All right. Thank you. Okay, wait. So we have Dork Forest
And Jackie and Laurie show.
cool.
Jackie and Laurie show is me and Laurie Kilmartin. She writes for Conan. We both started doing stand-up in the 80s, and we bitch about stand-up comedy for an hour. And that's on the
Super
Nerdist Network. And Dork Forest is on All Things Comedy Network. And you can go to dorkforest.com. You can go to jackieandlaurie.com. And she made a website. And
You were
it
like, I
should
just want to
lead
buy
back to
Family Pet.
Nerdist. It should hopefully go back to Nerdist so that you can listen to the Jackie and Laurie show. There's essentially, we didn't know each other before we started that podcast. She said, you know that weird question they ask women comics? What's it like to be a woman comic? And I said, yes. And she said, you want to answer that question every week? And I said, with you? Yes. And so we just bitch about stand-up, and we just happen to be women who are in her. And
That's
she keeps
awesome.
telling everyone how old we are, so we're 53. There's nothing to be done.
So the Olympic spa is working great.
It's worth. Thank you.
It
Thank you
definitely
very
is.
much. And now maybe
great.
I'll bathe in some honey. We've got
Yeah,
extra honey.
I hope she said that just to mess with me, but I'm telling everyone.
Tactile nightmare. Like I just hate sort of the way honey feels.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Should we plug all our stuff?
Yeah.
Sure.
So our website is facialrecognitioncomedy.com. You can see the videos from our podcast on our Patreon at www.patreon.com/facialrecognitioncomedy. We also have stickers, and we're soon gonna have some merch on there, so check that out. And if you rate and subscribe, she has a sticker on her phone. Yay! And if you rate and subscribe the podcast, and once we hit, I think, like 50, we will enter you into a raffle, get you some free stuff. We have our show on the second Sunday of every month at Westside Comedy Theater. We are coming to Houston on September 21st at the Secret Group. We're coming to New York on October 6th at Westside Comedy Club. My name is Paula Viganalan, PallavigunAlan. That's my Insta, my Facebook, my Twitter, and my website.
I know, after saying all that, then you had to spell your name?
Yep.
Jeez.
Now for a different cadence.
Yeah, Fizadasani, and everything else spelled it for you, just to make it easier. It's F-I-Z as in zebra, A-A. Last name Dasani, D-O-S-A-N as in 9-I. This is what I just went into like being on
Customer
yeah,
service.
customer service mode.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because it's just, you just want to get through it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just like, I'm going to give you more information than less.
It's Pallavi, not Pauladine. It's Pallavi. That's what. Okay.
One time, like, they hear Dasani, and one time, like, the customer service dude was like, "Oh, you're Italian like me," and I just didn't, like.
Don't even.
I didn't want to take the bait.
You're like, do I get a discount for that?
Is it like the water?
Don't humor.
Anyway.
No.
It's cation like vacation, but no veg.
It's Pallavi like nothing you've ever heard before.
It's fizz.
Fizadasani, carbonated water. That's the quickest mnemonic technique I can give to someone.
Oh, that's a good one.
Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jizza, Rizzo,
You have more vowels than Fizza, though.
Yes, I have
Yeah.
a joke like that. But I mean, it's also a fact. So, so at Fizadasani, most places at fizadasani.com.
Awesome. And I am Zara Ali. My social medias are at really Zara. Zara is spelled Z as in zucchini, A-H-R-A-N.
Really?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't know. We were
Ralph?
talking about it. Ralph,
There you go.
That's
Run.
the way to get their attention.
rhinoceros. I don't know.
Rhinoceros.
Zara.
There's also an H in rhinoceros.
Yeah.
Wait a
Oh my God.
It's very confusing.
Anyway.
Really,
Really Zara. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Really, Zara?
Yes. Sorry.
And thank you for being
Yay.
here.
Thanks for having me.
Yay.